Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. Welcome back. We have another jam-packed episode for you this week. We have so many titles from some of my absolute favorite labels, including Scream Factory, the Vinegar Syndrome partner labels, Lionsgate. Hell, we even have an import from Imprint Films from Australia, which I'm really excited to dig into. So many titles to dig into, so I'm going to try to go through these as quickly as possible while still giving you the broad strokes of everything I think you need to know about each release. But I will try not to keep you here super long, but if you've stuck with me for this long in my channel's life, you know I have some pretty lengthy episodes, and this will probably be one of them. But I'll just dig right into one of the standout releases of this week, which is saying something because it's packed with really great releases. It is the Lionsgate limited release of Frailty on 4K Ultra HD from director Bill Paxton, who also stars in this one. This was a standout directorial effort from Paxton. He didn't direct very many movies, but what he did, they were usually pretty good. He also did a golfing movie, which is a much different flavor from this horror movie, but it's worth checking out as well. But Frailty is a really interesting kind of religious themed horror thriller in which a present day Matthew McConaughey comes into an FBI agency office in the middle of the night. It's almost pretty much abandoned, and he starts talking to an agent, and he tells him that the serial killer that he's been looking for is actually his brother, who has recently passed away. And through this, you get him kind of telling his story from his childhood about being kind of raised by his dad, him and his brother being raised as a single parent by his father, who one day, he was a really religious man, and one day he got a vision from God and talked to God and saying that he needed to follow his word and go about destroying demons, which was just killing people who looked like humans, but this man was saying that he was told that they were demons. And so it just kind of led to this really like horrible childhood of his dad just picking up people and killing them. And now years later, he is trying to kind of reckon with that fact. His brother was more of a true believer than he ever was, and just trying to reconcile with that. And it's a really interesting psychological horror thriller, and just kind of being put in this impossible situation where the person that you should rely on the most is seemingly unwell and really doing horrible things, and what do you do? All that kind of stuff. Those questions are answered, and there's how it eventually ends is a very interesting, really cool ending as well. So great movie. Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey are both great. In addition to Paxton to being a great director, this is one of my favorite Bill Paxton roles as well. He's really interesting, and then the young stars are good as well. So a lot of people really love this movie, and they've been waiting for it to get a proper release. The original Blu-ray release from Lionsgate, I did not own personally, but everyone has talked about how pretty much terrible that original Blu-ray was. But the Lionsgate Limited, which is a website that you can buy from Lionsgate directly, this release will not be at any major retailers or any other retailers. This is exclusively at Lionsgate Limited. But they've done a really nice job. They usually do steel books, but they've done a nice hard packaging, which I've already started showing off. And they've done it for a really cool reason. So in addition to this kind of like almost digibook-esque packaging here, the reason they didn't do a steelbook for this one is they wanted to include a reproduction of Bill Paxton's original script for this one, and this has all of his handwritten notes and everything. It is super cool and just a really nice touch that they really wanted to go all out for this package to make it as amazing as possible. So packaging wise, it's really amazing, but also in addition to that, you finally get a proper transfer for this one. This is what's attached to the back whenever you get it. and it can fit nicely in here, so you don't have to try to find a way to keep track of it or bunch it up, like fold it or anything. This disc, it's a 4K restoration in Dolby Vision, and it looks incredible. This looks so naturally filmic. It looks no DNR has been applied. There's no encoding issues. This is pretty much as close to perfect as you could wish for a transfer to be. It is amazing. You have a newly created Dolby Atmos soundtrack, which also is pretty fantastic. It's very immersive. There's a lot of scenes where it's raining, and that's really helpful with the Atmos track. It's not unnaturally expanded, but how it's tastefully expanded, it does a really nice job of selling this movie and the atmosphere of this movie. And then you also have some great special features, including 3 commentary tracks, new and archival featurettes, some of which have been repurposed from older footage, along with some newer interviews. You also get some deleted scenes. So packaging wise, they've hit a home run with Frailty on 4K. Transfer wise, also home run. So really if you're a fan of this movie, which is a really cool thriller, this is the ultimate release. I don't think there's been any overseas releases or anything like that. So this is like a worldwide 4K debut of Frailty, and Lionsgate should be applauded for how good they've done with this release, because it's really, really terrific. So make sure to get that from Lionsgate Limited if you're interested. They have so many great titles I've talked about and we'll talk about in the future. So make sure to load up whenever you're buying from Lionsgate Limited, so you can save on shipping, or if you buy enough, I think it's like over $100, you get free shipping. So keep note of that. Maybe it's better for you if you buy in bulk, in terms of like buying several titles at once to hit that free shipping mark. But they package things very well with tons of bubble wrap and everything. So if you're a collector conscious of how like any dings or anything like that on your packaging and you want a pristine set, Lionsgate Limited will typically get you as a pristine copy as possible for their releases. But next, I'm going to a major studio release. I'm going over to Disney, and one of the bigger films of this earlier part of the year is the new Marvel release of Thunderbolts, which I'm a fan of the MCU. The past several years, I've been kind of more hot and cold on things. There's definitely been some really great movies, but it's been a long time since a movie's really impressed me. And I'm happy to report that Thunderbolts is that movie that it really, really spoke to me in a way that a Marvel property has not in quite a while. I've been passively entertained and at a lot of Marvel stuff for the past few years, but this one really actually impacted me emotionally in a way I wasn't quite expecting, because what's really cool about this film, it's a team up film of a lot of different kind of like anti-heroes almost. It's kind of like akin to a Marvel version of Suicide Squad, but what this film does and what I found so interesting is how it approaches things emotionally, and it is really a movie about mental illness and trauma and depression and all kinds of things. Just a lot of these stories, especially our main character played by Florence Pugh, like for much of the movie is kind of vocalizing how checked out of life she is, how there's not really a lot worth living for, how she doesn't really have a lot in her life. And that's kind of a theme that goes throughout the movie, and a lot of the characters are kind of detached from different facets of their life, and that it even becomes kind of physically manifested later in the film. And just the emotional depths and complexity, it's a darker movie, and I guess there should be a trigger warning for certain kind of like mental illness related content. It's thematically pretty heavy at points, but it is very, very entertaining, and I think it blends kind of the Marvel action spectacle very well with some of the more character driven emotional beats, which speak more to me. And it really surprised me. A Marvel movie hasn't impressed me this much since before Endgame, and it instantly became probably in my upper echelon of MCU movies. So I was very, very impressed by Thunderbolts, or star. That kind of denotes a alternate title, which you can see here. But yeah, it's a really, really great movie. If you have kind of been a little bit bored by the MCU, but you're still kind of interested in finding a way back in, I think Thunderbolts could be that movie if you're like me and you like something that's not as tethered to other aspects of the MCU. You don't need as many like kind of primers as to what's happening at any given point in this one. There's some, if you have backstory with like Black Widow and stuff, I think you're pretty good with most of these things. But it's a very, very interesting movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I was very impressed with the 4K release, which here's the Steelbook version, in which you get a Dolby Vision presentation, which is fantastic. No encoding anomalies. Everything looks pretty much perfect. And Dolby Atmos is also very immersive and bombastic and stuff. Whenever there are action scenes, they really pack a punch, and everything holds up very well. In terms of the special features, you do get a commentary track, you get some deleted scenes, you get some featurettes and a gag reel. So overall, Disney and Marvel, I'm really happy with how this went with Thunderbolts, and it makes me a little bit more excited to see where they keep going with the MCU. As I've mentioned before, I have been a little bit burnt out on superhero movies in recent years, but this one kind of hit me right where it needed to, and it did impress me. So Thunderbolts, make sure to check it out if you're a Marvel fan. It's a really good one, and it makes me a little bit hopeful for the MCU, which is really cool. Next up, I have another new movie from earlier this year from A24, and we have their Blu-ray release of Death of a Unicorn, with a pretty cool cast, including Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Will Poulter, Téa Leoni, Richard E. Grant. Just a really solid cast for this horror fantasy comedy in which a father and daughter on the way to an important dinner accidentally hit and kill a unicorn, and things kind of spiral out from there because there's kind of like an eat the rich type narrative going along here, because the people they're going to meet, they are pretty terrible and just kind of like really represent kind of the worst of human instincts in society whenever they feel that they can like avoid kind of certain kind of punishments or just kind of exploit people. And a lot of this is trying about kind of wrestling with who you are and what you are kind of willing to sacrifice, like either your morals or your own comfort, in terms of like whether to be a good person or not. And it balances things pretty well. It's not super complex, but the themes that they are working with, I think, work broadly and are effective. It's a little bit underdeveloped character-wise at times, but overall, I had a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of gory unicorn horror action as the film goes along. The special effects aren't always the most impressive, but if you want just kind of like a fun horror comedy, A24 I think has really delivered with this, and it's kind of a pretty nice standout for the early part of the year in terms of like horror comedies. And with this Blu-ray release, we get a really nice presentation. So the Blu-ray has a really nice 1080p HD presentation, looks very nice. I wish this could have been a 4K disc, but there's no 4K version domestically right now. But A24 has provided a nice Blu-ray that looks great. Nice colors, no major banding or anything like that, maybe minor things here and there, but everything holds together pretty well and looks nice. And then you have a Dolby Atmos audio track, which sounds quite good. It's not the most bombastic movie, but it is immersive and it really kind of transports you and makes you feel like you're in the midst of things. In terms of special features, you get a commentary track, featurette, and deleted scenes. So overall, A24 and Death of a Unicorn, really nice job here. Heading over to Paramount for a couple of titles. We got some 4K releases, the first of which is the Joe Dante 90s action family comedy, Small Soldiers. This was one that I remember as a kid I was super excited about, and it's been years since I watched it, so it was really fun revisiting this one. It actually came out on Blu-ray a few years ago from Paramount. I'd picked it up, but I hadn't got around to watching it as of yet. But comparing the Blu-ray to the 4K, I'll just say you'll definitely want to get the 4K if you're a fan. But broadly, the film's about just like the accidental creation of a kind of these toys. There's microchips put in these toys that are being sent to market that were intended for military use, and they were put in these toys, and they start to come to life and go to war with one another. So there's the Gorgons and the soldiers that are facing off, and the Gorgons are the good guys and the soldiers are the bad guys. And it really just kind of escalates. It's for what is probably more so a movie that should be geared towards kids. It is kind of intense. It is a PG-13, but Joe Dante has a lot of fun here. There's a good mixture of practical and CGI effects. The CGI can be a little bit wonky at times, but the practical stuff by Stan Winston's great. Tonally, it works pretty well. You have a young Kirsten Dunst in one of the roles as well. A lot of positives here, like you have voice acting from Frank Langella and Tommy Lee Jones. If you wanted to see like your fantasies come to life and see your toys really, like whenever you've been like a young kid and just like smashing your toys against one another, that's really what this film has come to life in just like the most epic grand scale. So this is from the director of Gremlins, so you know that you can have like cute things really become chaotic and destructive and stuff. So Joe Dante has a lot of fun here, and I had a lot of fun watching this and revisiting it. It felt like a reconnecting with a little piece of my childhood, so that was fun. And as I mentioned, this new 4K presentation, exclusively in a steelbook for now, is a really, really great upgrade from that old Blu-ray, which used like kind of an older HD master, probably from maybe the DVD days. It really was not an appealing looking Blu-ray, but this 4K does look really nice. It has a nice natural film grain retained. Nothing looks, I know Paramount can have a little bit of iffy encoding at times, and you never know if you're going to get their A team or B team. This seems like mostly an A-team effort in terms of like, I don't see major macro blocking or egregious DNR or anything like that. It looks like quite a nice disc. And yeah, overall, I think that Paramount came to play with this one. And the DTS 5.1 track, it's pretty good as well. Maybe some minor strain here and there, but overall it sounds pretty good, but it looks really great. No major special features have been added or anything. There's no special features on the 4K disc, but the Blu-ray disc does have a smattering of special features, including a behind-the-scenes featurette and some bloopers. But really what you're getting here from Paramount is a nice visual upgrade, which I think this movie desperately needed. So I'm glad that it got it. Really nice steelbook as well, like I've already shown off. And so if you're a fan of this film, the 4K is recommended. It's a fun movie, and they've done a nice job with this at Paramount. They've also have a 4K re-release, so some may already own this disc, but there's a new steelbook version of Alfred Hitchcock's classic, To Catch a Thief. So this is in honor of the 70th anniversary. Just a really nice steelbook you have here. So this is Hitchcock more in kind of like spy thriller mode. It's not really spy, it's more of a thief, but like kind of more of like a frothy, that kind of feeling where Cary Grant plays a notorious thief who he's self-proclaimed to be out of the kind of the burglary game for years, but there is someone who is potentially pretending to like kind of impersonating him and committing crimes, and he's trying to figure out who it is, at the same time kind of falling for a young American girl played by Grace Kelly along the French Riviera. So There's gorgeous locations. There are heists. There's fun banter and romance. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and Hitchcock directs things with perfection. This is my first time seeing this movie, and it was a lot of fun. There's sometimes this genre can feel a little bit stale for me, like if there's not a lot of like ingenuity or inventiveness to it, but there is such an energy to this movie, and with all the characters and everything, I was never bored once, and I really think this is a nice one from Hitchcock, and I'm glad I finally got to watch it, because this came out on Blu-ray from the Paramount Presents series, like right around the time I was starting to review Blu-rays in 2020, and I missed out on it. And then the 4K release from last year, I missed out on as well. So I was glad that I finally got to fill this blind spot with this new Steelbook release, which it does just port over the previous 4K disc, which at the time, some of you may know, was hailed as a really nice improvement from the Paramount Presents Blu-ray release, which was kind of notoriously panned for being kind of digitally scrubbed and just kind of a lot of issues with it, of just like DNR and all kinds of issues. And Paramount has seemingly went back to kind of the source, like an older master mixed with some of the newer masters. Kind of tricky with what exactly the restoration source is for this 4K, but I think they tried to blend kind of the best of all worlds of time in terms of like fixing certain color filters that were incorrectly like colored on the Paramount Presents release, from like they went from blue to green, and other kind of minor things that they tried to make this release as like ultimate as possible. It's still not perfect. There are minor things like a little bit of DNR here and there. Especially I can't remember her name, but when you're out with the young French girl, there's you can kind of tell that's a little bit scrubbed of grain, but overall the grain has largely been retained for this 4K release, and I think from what I can tell, this seems to be the ultimate release of this movie on physical media. So while this VistaVision photography is long to be seen in the best version possible, it could potentially be among the best 4K like Ks when done right on the format. You can't quite say this is the best 4K on the format, but for this particular film, I believe this is the ultimate release of this film. So there's minor things here and there that keep it from being perfect, but largely Paramount's done a good job. The encoding's rock solid. The colors are really nice in Dolby Vision. No major complaints, just minor nitpicks here and there. But I think most casual viewers will be very, very pleased with how this looks. So as I mentioned, they have a 4K restoration in Dolby Vision. You have a Dolby True HD 5.1 mix. I wish you could have got the 2.0 original mix, but the 5.1 sounds pretty decent and expansive. You get a commentary track, a filmmaker focus, some archival featurettes. No new special features since the Paramount Presents Blu-ray, but I believe it includes all the pre-existing special features. So if you haven't caught To Catch a Thief yet on 4K and you like a steelbook, this is a really nice release from Paramount, and I don't think you can go wrong. So it's Alfred Hitchcock. All of his stuff deserves to be on 4K. I just picked up one of his sets that I was missing on 4K last week, so I'm trying to get the full Hitchcock 4K experience, and this was a nice addition to that as well. And now we are going to go down a very special stretch of Vinegar Syndrome and Vinegar Syndrome partner label titles that they're one of my favorites, and every month just seeing what they're putting out always puts a smile on my face. And I think this particular month is filled with gems, and the first of which we got 2 releases from Cinematograph this month, and the first of which, it's a doozy. It's the 4K upgrade of Elaine May's A New Leaf, starring Elaine May and Walter Matthau. This continues Justin Liberty's Cinematograph lines penchant for getting some really cool gems and giving them the ultimate treatment, in which this one is in which Walter Matthau plays a man who was once rich and has lived beyond his means and suddenly finds himself on the verge of destitution. And how do you fix that? you find another rich woman to marry and swindle out of her money, maybe through some murderous means. And in order to do that, he needs to find someone who's kind of not very looked after or thought of, and that leads to Elaine May's character, who's really just the most precious woman, who's into botany and like just loves studying plants, and it's just kind of like an awkward lady that drops things and stuff, but she's great and hilarious, and I love her character. And Walter Matthau is kind of a boorish man, who, against all odds, may actually start to learn something about being a decent person by being around this lady if he does not snub her out first. So A New Leaf, it's a real gem of a movie. It's hilarious. Great Elaine May script. It's kind of a dark comedy, but everything's just hitting. Such great performances from May and Matthau and the entire ensemble. There's a really small part with Doris Roberts, who I know at least my mom would know from Everybody Loves Raymond as Raymond's mother. And just a lot of great actors in here, and just a really special movie that I've been meaning to watch for a long time. And ever since like the previous Olive Blu-ray came out. But this is obviously going to be the way to watch this film moving forward. And it is the ultimate presentation, because this is from a new 4K restoration of the original camera negative. It looks fantastic in Dolby Vision. It's perfect natural film grain, nice bold colors. Everything is saturated very well. Pretty much all the nicks and scratches have been eradicated. This is just a plus presentation from Cinematograph. You got the original mono soundtrack, which sounds really great as well. It's very full and great at kind of conveying all the nuances of this kind of reserved soundscape, but everything sounds great, especially when they're on like kind of a river near the end of the movie. All of that kind of holds together even very well, even in kind of a more perilous situation. You got a commentary track, you got interviews, you got video essays, you got a conversation between Mike Nichols and Elaine May from the 2006 or so. That's like an hour long. That's very cool as well. A lot of archival special features carried over and new special features. So a lot of care has been put into this. So if you're an Elaine May fan, or if you just kind of really like gems of, I believe, 1971, 70s filmmaking. This one is a real highlight, and one of my favorites has come from Cinematograph. Definitely worth picking up from them, because they do nice work. Obviously, showed off this amazing package, so make sure to support them. They do great work, which they've continued with my next release. This is the Blu-ray debut of the Robert De Niro, Sean Penn movie We're No Angels, which is kind of a loose remake of, I believe it's a John Huston movie. If not, I apologize. But it's about some convicts who escape in the midst of a larger prison break, and they have to go undercover as priests until they can find a way to cross the border while the heat is on. And this movie has kind of like a more poor reputation. Kind of like a lot of negative things I've heard about this over the years. I think kind of remaking a classic filmmaker's film automatically puts some people at odds, and then kind of some of the decisions that within this movie are not always the most fully embraced. I know a lot of people have issues with kind of De Niro's performance as kind of overly mugging the camera. But overall, I did like it. It's a script from David Mamet, and you have it's from director Neil Jordan. While it obviously doesn't hold a candle to any previous versions of this movie, and it's not the top of like Sean Penn or Robert De Niro, this is still a fun movie, and I like kind of the good redemption tale of like these people who are criminals, but going undercover as these men of faith. They end up kind of interacting with other characters, like one played by Demi Moore, and you have John C. Reilly in a small role. The way they interact with others and how they kind of eventually come out of the movie, I was really attracted to that, and I found it very entertaining. So while it's not a perfect movie, and it's kind of like a little bit more pedestrian, I do think it is not worth the hate that I have seen for this movie. And I think it is still a very worthy addition to the Cinematograph label. I know a lot of people complained that this wasn't getting a 4K release, since this is from a 4K restoration, and I can understand that. I kind of feel that way as well, but I also am understanding of kind of the business logistics of the 4Ks that have been released from Cinematograph. Not all of them have been flying off the shelves. So if you want more in 4K from this line, make sure you buy titles like A New Leaf on 4K as soon as you can after their release, so they know that support is there for future 4K releases of titles that you may not think automatically would warrant a 4K release, but if you want it on 4K, make sure you're supporting these labels. But this Blu-ray release does look really nice, as I mentioned, from a 4K restoration of the 35mm camera negative. This is the Blu-ray debut. It looks really great. No major damage or anything like that. Everything looks very nice and contained. And like I said, even without a 4K, very impressed with this release. 5.1 and 2.0 audio. Everything kind of sounds natural and great as intended. You get a commentary track, interviews, and a visual essays. So overall, Cinematograph for me is 2 for 2 this month. They hit with me most months. They haven't had many misses. So one of my favorite labels around, and they continue to do good work with We're No Angels. So on Blu-ray, check that out if you're a fan of these performers. Or just you want a pretty entertaining movie. I hope someone gives a nice restoration to the original We're No Angels at some point. But as it is, I'm glad to have this new restoration of the remake. Moving on to some partner labels. First, we have from Icarus Films, a mammoth documentary. It took me a couple nights to get through this one. This is Route 1 USA from Robert Kramer. So this is a pretty simple premise. It's about a man who's just going across America and just having conversations with locals and learning all about just kind of what's going on in their community, what challenges they're facing, what just kind of learning about their lives and connecting with people. Like I said, very simple. What kind of makes it stand out a little bit more is that it's a little over 4 hours. So it did take me a couple of nights to get through everything. But while there's not like a strict narrative or stuff, there's very interesting chunks there where he visits different communities, like native communities or different kind of underserved communities, to kind of just connect with the people and just understand their lives, how they're living, and while not necessarily trying to insert himself that much into it, just trying to get an understanding of people's lives around America. And that's the kind of documentary that fascinates me. While with this being a little bit over 4 hours, like 4 hours and 10 or 15 minutes, there are moments and sections where you might space out a little bit more or are more interesting than others, but overall it's a very, very interesting time. So Route 1 USA, it's a nice discovery for me from Icarus Films, and they've done a really nice job with this Blu-ray release. It does appear to be from a new 2K restoration that holds up pretty well. This is a old school documentary, so it's sometimes a little rough around the edges depending on the shooting location, but the restoration itself has made everything look as great as possible. I think small nicks and specks and stuff are par for the course for this type of movie, but it's been cleaned up and maintained very well. So I think most people will be very pleased with how this ended up looking. You get an additional feature on this called Looking for Robert. and it's about like working with Robert Kramer on this documentary. And it's from director Richard Copans, and this was from 2024. So this is a newer documentary, but it's an interesting companion piece because you get to learn a little bit more about Route One, and kind of Robert Kramer in general, and just getting even more bang for your buck with this. So this Blu-ray release from Icarus Films of Route One, USA. Very, very worthwhile if you're a documentary fan. I will note up front, we are now in the portion of the partner labels, like the Vinegar Syndrome section with the partner labels, where if you go to the Vinegar Syndrome website or specific indie retailers like Diabolic and stuff, you can find an exclusive slipcover if you want to pay a few dollars extra to get a nice thick slipcover. Unless they're sold out already, which maybe a few of these titles might be already. But overall, go there if you want a slipcover, or you can buy the standard releases, which I'll be showing you. But I'm just, for your slipcover fanatics, I just want you to be aware there are slipcovers available for most of what I'm going to be showing moving forward through the Vinegar Syndrome website, or the section. So Blu-ray from Icarus Films, Route 1 USA, very much worth checking out. Moving over to one of my favorite partner labels, Utopia, we have the lone 4K partner label that I'm talking about this month. The partner labels don't typically get 4Ks, but there's usually a smattering of them throughout the year. And the one that got the 4K this time is Pavements from director Alex Ross Perry. So this is a really interesting documentary, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I'll do my best. The best I can kind of succinctly kind of compare it to is like the Rolling Thunder review from director Martin Scorsese about Bob Dylan. If you know anything about that, you know that it's kind of a meta, like lightly fictionalized documentary that kind of takes some elements of the truth and kind of like blows it up and kind of distorts things in a really interesting way, because you're telling a story about an artist like Bob Dylan, who isn't one to just kind of be like, this is my life, this is what I did. And Pavement is kind of similar in this regard. They are not the type of band who are just going to be like, well, yeah, we did this and we did this and this. So Alex Ross Perry and Pavement kind of collaborated to create something very interesting, in which, here's the reversible cover art here, in which you have a documentary about Pavement, but a lot of the stuff inside of the movie itself did not actually occur. So like you have several different sections. You have a piece following, like a documentary following the band, kind of like as they gear up to go out on a new tour, and they recount a little bit of their past. You have a section where there is a stage play is being developed about using Pavement's music. So like that's been a kind of like a trend on Broadway for the past couple of decades, of just using music to kind of inspire a new narrative. And in this reality, that is happening to Pavement. So it's kind of, they kind of name drop American Idiot, which used Green Day's music as kind of like an analog for that. They have a section where there's a museum being like a pop-up museum being erected for like Pavement and like to honor them. And there's also one more section where there is a Hollywood biopic a la Bohemian Rhapsody being developed that has like a lot of people like Joe Keery from Stranger Things. You have Jason Schwartzman. You have a lot of like interesting people acting as if there is a Pavement biopic being made. So most of these things are not true. There's not a stage play. There's not a biopic. All this stuff isn't happening, but it's kind of like presented in this documentary as if it is. And it's just a really interesting meta way to look at Pavement as a band. They're kind of like punk influences and how they kind of continue to have that ethos in different ways. You do get drips and drops of real life things that have happened to the band through this, but then a lot of it is askew and just kind of distorted through the telling in different ways. Prior to this movie, a few months ago, people may remember that I talked about the Gary Young documentary, Louder Than You Think. Well, he was one of the original, I think the original drummer of Pavement, who got kind of fired / left the band. And he is kind of discussed a little bit in this movie. He's not a major portion, but having seen that documentary gave me a little bit of context to like Pavement as a band, who is not a band that I've traditionally listened to in a great depth. Not quite my kind of scene, but I do appreciate several of their songs, and I like them as people, and I found them very fascinating to dig into, and only more so after watching this movie. It's just so multi-layered. It's a little bit over 2 hours, and there's a lot of people. Like the band is interesting. A lot of the people that they got to participate in this movie are fascinating. It's just a really wild time, and I'm glad that this came out and it's getting the proper release with a 4K. This is an HDR10. It looks very nice on 4K. This being a kind of a pseudo documentary, you may wonder, like, do you need it on 4K? I think given this material and judging it based on the included Blu-ray as well, it is a nice uptick in 4K in terms of encoding, color, like depth and saturation, and just a little bit with like kind of the textures and stuff. It's just a really nice presentation on 4K. But if you're Blu-ray only, there's a Blu-ray included in here, so you can get that for the Blu-ray in this one as well. I don't think there's a standalone Blu-ray, so you need to pick up the 4K if you want to own this either way. So HDR10, DTS 5.1 sound, you get a commentary track, you get a panel from the New York Film Festival, you get featurettes, tons of featurettes, lots of stuff packed onto this disc, and Utopia's done a really nice job with this 4K of Pavements. Really fun movie. I enjoyed very much looking through this, and look forward to watching it again sometime. Another gem of a release comes from Film Movement. It is a trio of movies from Naomi Kawase. It is the Nature and Nurture collection. So here you get Still the Water, Radiance, and True Mothers. So that means on the first disc here, you get Still the Water and Radiance, and then True Mothers, which is the longest at like 2 hours and 20 minutes, is on the second disc to itself, along with a supplemental feature. So Naomi Kawase is a filmmaker whose work I've only seen one movie of previously, I believe, which was Sweet Bean. I watched that in recent years and quite enjoyed that. So getting into this set, I was eager because I knew it would probably be more emotionally driven, which I've indicated time and time again that is much more so my speed. I'm an emotional person, and I love emotional movies. So you get a nice essay and stuff here. And this really kind of hit that for me, because like Still the Water. It's more of like a young lover / coming of age story where both of them are dealing with coming to terms with like understanding death. Each are experiencing death in their lives in different ways, and that's really a lot of what the movie is about, is like death and life and rebirth and all that kind of stuff. And it's really beautiful. I really loved it. It was pretty incredible and enjoyed it a lot. Radiance, that deals with like which I really found interesting. It deals with a woman who works as like an audio description developer for like movies. So people who are have visual impairment that listen to movies that with like descriptions and stuff, those had to be created. And this is kind of a narrative that kind of deals around that. And there's like, and also follows like her and then like a visually impaired man and his kind of journey to like kind of coming to acceptance that his limited vision is kind of getting worse, and try not to be too isolated from society. So there's a lot of like emotions there. And then True Mothers deals with like the adopted mother of a young child having the birth mother come back into their lives and try how the ramifications of that kind of echo out. And there's a lot about parenthood and like connection amongst families and stuff that I really, really love. So really, this whole set was just like made for me. Beautiful set, great filmmaking, just wonderful vistas and emotional stories, and I loved it. It's a great set. Film Movement's done a really nice job with this. All the HD transfers are all within like the last decade or so. The oldest movie is in 2014. All these look fantastic. No disappointments. Everything looks good. Even with 2 films on the first disc, I didn't notice any major encoding issues. Everything looks quite nice. Sounds great as well. English subtitles for these films, and there is a discussion about Naomi Kawase on here, but not packed with special features, but the movies are the real draw here. And Nature and Nurture, such a great set. Really glad to have it, and very much worth checking out. Another pretty sprawling movie I have here is the 2.5-hour Eureka from 2023, I believe. This is from Lisandro Alonso. And this is kind of an interesting narrative that kind of goes all kinds of different places. Kind of like it is not bound by time and space. It has like a 3 or 4 different kind of distinct narratives that it kind of encompasses. It starts off, I think most people will probably be most drawn to the first part of the film has Viggo Mortensen in it from the Lord of the Rings movies and other like Eastern Promises and History of Violence. He's in the first part of the movie, not super long, but probably like 15 to 20 minutes or so. And kind of a black and white 4x3 Western tale. And then things kind of evolve to kind of more the modern day and on a native reservation, and it follows a woman who's a cop who is just kind of like going about her night and all the things that she comes across. And then the movie keeps evolving in interesting ways where there's like a through line of like native representation and where like how they are tied to the land and how like traditions and all kinds of like native focus issues are kind of woven throughout this. And all of them are pretty interesting. It gets a little bit heady near the end, and I think it might feel a little bit challenging to some people as it continues to go on. If you like kind of if you dislike a slow cinema kind of experience, with a lot of like lingering shots and stuff, you may find this to be a little bit of a challenging watch. But if you're on board for that and you kind of like the beauty of like give yourself over to a narrative and just taking all of it in, I think Eureka has a lot to offer, and it's very much worth checking out on that basis alone. Really nice, newer movie, great. All the visual styles are represented pretty well. In terms of special features, you get a visual essay, but nothing too in-depth, but what's there is nice. I'm glad they made an effort to at least include some special features, and the AV presentation is really nice. So Eureka, really interesting special movie, a little bit challenging for some, but very much worth the journey if it sounds interesting to you. Heading over to some international cinema, I believe that this is an Iranian movie, yes, from Mohammad Rasulov, who did Seed of a Sacred Fig. This is A Man of Integrity. This was an earlier film from him. The Seed of a Sacred Fig was one of the Oscar-nominated movies for International Feature earlier this year. It was fantastic. One of the better movies I watched last year. So I was definitely interested in checking out A Man of Integrity, which, as succinctly as I can put it, is about a man who is kind of a simple fish farmer who is getting kind of crunched from all sides by bureaucracy and kind of big corrupt people who are trying to force him off of his land. And he ends up like picking a fight with someone and lands in jail, and it kind of sets off like a whole journey of like bureaucracy and whether or not he is willing to pay off certain people and like give up some of his like integrity to like survive and like give in to kind of all this corruption that is rampant in the community within the police and like different like figures within the community. And it's very intense. It's very frustrating, but in a very transfixing and gripping way. And it just really kind of escalates in very, very interesting ways. I really, really quite liked it. So if you like Seed of a Sacred Fig, definitely check out A Man of Integrity. It's very much like same wavelength of like criticizing like government and like fascism and all that kind of stuff. It definitely hits those notes and it's very entertaining. This is a new movie, looks great, from Big World Pictures, and this, in terms of the special features, not much. You just get a trailer, but just having this on Blu-ray from Big World Pictures, I'm very happy. And Man of Integrity, worth checking out if you are wanting more Iranian cinema. Heading over to Brainstorm Media, we have a movie that I was completely wrong about what this movie was about, because I judge things by a cover sometimes, and I shouldn't have. And that is Stockholm Bloodbath. Now, I looked at this very quickly whenever it came out theatrically, I believe near the end of last year, and I thought it would be kind of like similar to like A Weekend in Taipei, kind of like a John Wickish ripoff of just like lots of violence and crime and all kinds of stuff. This is not that at all. This is a period piece. This is back in the 1500s, Sweden or Switzerland. Sweden and Denmark are the factions that work here. This is back in kind of like 1500s, like fighting like clans, and it's based on a real life like kind of like historical figures and stuff. And like whenever factions from Denmark were trying to overtake Sweden and like took certain like kings hostages and like just ended up like massacring a bunch of people, kind of like a religious cleansing, all kinds of stuff going on. I tried to pick up as much of this history as possible watching this. It is in English, I will just say that. It's a fairly complex, like factions wise. It's like whenever if you've ever watched Game of Thrones and the first time you're watching it, you're trying to be like, all right, who is this person? Who are they with? What are they trying to accomplish? So it took a while for me to kind of get my bearings about who was doing what for what reason, but I eventually caught on, and I think this would kind of reward a repeat viewing for me at least. But I surprisingly like this quite a bit. I was not really looking forward to it, but because I thought it was just kind of be like a mindless action film that wasn't done very well. It ended up being a fairly interesting like historical epic. There is kind of like almost like a made for premium cable quality to kind of the cinematography sometimes, but overall I think I can kind of like dismiss it for some of its kind of like small screen ambitions, almost just some of the aesthetic choices they use with like some of the like on-screen titles and stuff. It kind of feels kind of amateurish a little bit, but even with that, I found it to be a very entertaining movie, and I quite enjoyed it. I do want to note there are two versions of this movie here. There is the U.S. cut of the version of the movie, which is an hour and 58 minutes. That's the movie I would have seen last year whenever it came out. Whenever I first heard about it, if I would have seen that version. I'm glad I didn't, and I'm glad I waited for this release because there's the original uncut Swedish version, director's cut version of the movie, which is 2.5 hours. So over 30 more minutes of footage is included in here. And while I did not do like a strict comparison between the two, there did not seem to be like a lot of extraneous footage that I think could have been cut out without kind of confusing the narrative more than I already was trying to grasp onto. So losing 30 minutes of footage, I feel like I would have lost a lot of the nuance to this story. So I'm glad that now that it is being released on physical media, that fans can see the full uncut version. And I think this will allow it to gain a greater appreciation in America. Hopefully it will. And it's very much, if you like kind of historical like epics, like I talked about Kingdom of Heaven like a month ago, if you like And it's not on that level, but if you like movies like that, check this out. I think Stockholm Bloodbath, it's more fun than you might think. The Brainstorm Media Blu-ray is great. You do get interview with the director. It's like 25 minutes or so. But the main thing is just having both versions of the movie here. But check out that 2.5 hour version. It's entertaining, and I think it's worth checking out if it sounds interesting to you. And speaking of movies that I was not excited to watch, but I found myself eating my words, it is the second release from Glass Eye Pix since they've been introduced, and it is I Can See You. Now, this is Glass Eye Pix, whenever I first found them introduced as a partner label, it seemed like they weren't going to be up my alley. But now we're 2 releases in, and I've liked both releases. This one even more. And I do want to mention this also includes the movie called The Viewer, and it is in 3D, and they do give you 2 pairs of anaglyph, red cyan, old school 3D glasses. There's also a version to watch it with traditional, if you have 3D equipment, you can watch it with your normal 3D glasses, or you can just watch a 2D version of the movie. But I Can See You, it's a really interesting narrative about a group of guys. They're ad executives who go off to the woods to kind of brainstorm. One of them brings their girlfriend. One meets up with a friend from the past, and they all kind of hang out. And things, whenever they're out one day swimming and stuff, one of them or a pair of them goes missing, and things kind of spiral out from there. It goes to some wild places, and I don't want to detail everything that happens, but it's very trippy and almost psychedelic-y. There is a sequence which I loved that's kind of like a musical sequence, in which there's this really song that I found very catchy and just visually very fascinating, and I felt like I was having a fever dream, and I loved it. And it was so much fun, and I really, really enjoyed it quite a bit. And just this whole experience, it kind of has a lo-fi quality to everything, but it's very interesting. And then The Viewer, it's the 3D short that is also on the disc. It's about 15 minutes long. It's kind of like a psychic interrogation, where they're trying, you have someone on screen talking directly to you as if you're an interview subject, and it kind of goes into that. And then the disc additionally has a few short films from the filmmaker Graham Resnick that are also pretty cool. One's Christmas theme, and one's Halloween theme. There's another one as well. This disc is just loaded with really cool things. There's obviously been a lot of care put in this. I know for people who don't know, Glass Eye Pix is kind of one of the brain child of Larry Fessenden, who I know holds a lot of clout for a lot of genre fans. I am not as familiar with his work, but from what I've seen over the past couple of years that I've seen, I seem to enjoy his stuff, and I am liking the Glass Eye Pix output so far. So I don't know why I was so hesitant on this line moving forward at the beginning, but now I'm on board, and I'm game for whatever they put out, because I had such a blast with I Can See You. It's a really weird horror, psychedelic thriller, fever dream. It's a good time. I liked it. And the remastered version of The Viewer is also a nice touch, with a couple different versions to watch it either in 3D or 2D. You get 2 commentary tracks on I Can See You. You get behind the scenes featurettes, you get deleted scenes, and then you get those additional short films, like I said. So really went all out for this release. Glass Eye Pix and I Can See You. Fantastic release. All right, we are 3 for 3 with movies that I went into with my arms folded that I ended up really liking. From ETR Media, we have Watch Them Come Blood, which it's because the last time I watched an ETR Media movie that wasn't a documentary. That was just one of their original pickups. I did not like it at all, and I just worried that it was going to be like that with this one. But there was something about it that I just really liked this one as well. It had a weird kind of aura. There's kind of like several different stories that kind of connect, but it all kind of centers around this kind of out of the way kind of house slash brothel kind of, in which I don't want to spoil it, but I would just say it's where people go to indulge in sex and death and violence and all kinds of stuff in this kind of house of horrors. But there's a lot going on in this house, and then the people who visit it in different ways, how they eventually kind of interconnect and stuff. It's a very bloody, not overly exploitative in terms of like sexuality, but there is a little bit of that. But it's just kind of a weird, interesting time with some subversive elements, and I don't know, I really liked it. It surprised me, but it was like, even with some of the acting being a little bit amateurish, I found it to be right on the right side of endearing. Whereas like there's some people who I know aren't the strongest actors, but there seemed to be such kind of like a come together, let's make a movie quality that worked on this film in a way that doesn't always work for me. But this just clicked for me. Maybe I was in a good mood, but Watch Them Come Blood, it worked for me, and it was one of the ETR Media original like narratives that they picked up that I did respond to. And this has a nice amount of special features. You get 2 commentary tracks, behind the scenes featurettes, interviews, a Q&A at a film festival, and this has kind of like a throwback quality aesthetically, but everything looks really nice and as good as it should for the new HD master. It just came out last year, and it's if you're a horror fan, if you like kind of the freaky, weird, like kind of like gory, like rough around the edges horror, Watch Them Come Blood, worth checking out. Another one along that vein, didn't work as well for me, is from Yellow Bell Pictures, is They Call Her Death, about a woman who's in the Old West times, whose husband is killed, and she kind of like wants to get revenge because she kind of realizes that the people, like the authorities in town, are kind of like setting him up to be the fall guy for this crime that she knows that her husband did not commit. Even though he does have a checkered past, she knows that he was not responsible for this crime. So she goes on kind of a murderous tale of her own. This is very kind of like DIY filmmaking as well. And the things that I said that I had reservations about with Watch Them Come Blood is kind of actualized in this for me. Like the acting was not the good kind of bad acting. The script is kind of run-of-the-mill. I like some of this practical special effects, but overall this just kind of like low budget affair just didn't quite work for me. I wish it did, but just didn't really hit. The visuals, very rough around the edges, but the Blu-ray itself looks nice enough. You do get some good special features, include 2 commentary tracks, an interview, Q&A, making of, behind the scenes featurette. So lots of stuff in here. But not my favorite exploitation horror outing, but maybe you'll feel differently. It just wasn't clicking with me for this one. Another horror outing, got a lot of those, is from IFC Films, and their release of the original Spanish version of We Are What We Are. This was remade, I believe. I haven't watched the remake, so I'm not sure how much they differ, but there is another film called We Are What We Are that was made a couple of years later, in which at the beginning of the film, a family patriarch dies, and it sets up this family to have to reevaluate what they are doing. they kind of live a weird life where there's a ritual that they feel that they have to enact. And there's a lot of violence in their family. I'm trying to be very vague for those who don't want the movie kind of like revealed. That's like it won't ruin everything, but I don't want to kind of reveal things. But there's kind of like a bloody, gory secret to this family. And overall, I found it very entertaining and very much, if you're a horror fan that likes something a little gross and emotionally complex family-wise, We Are What We Are is interesting. You do get a commentary tracking and making of featurette. Video-wise, looks pretty solid. It's a 2010 film, so not super old, but everything looks nice. No major banding or anything like that. Maybe minor splat crush here and there, but overall looks good. But yeah, good release from IFC Films for We Are What We Are. My final partner label is from Shudder, and it is Slaxx with 2 X's. And easiest I can say is killer blue jeans. That's all you need to know. People trapped in a retail store, clothing retail store overnight with some killer blue jeans. It sounds silly, and it can be, and but they have fun with it. It's kind of played tongue in cheek, and there is a little bit of social commentary here about like the jeans and where they come from and all kinds of stuff. But killer blue jeans, if that sounds fun to you, I think you'll have fun with Slaxx. It's very gory and fun and hilarious. So if you want a killer blue jean movie, pick up Slaxx. Great HD transfer. Sounds great as well. In terms of the special features, you get a commentary track. But yeah, Shudder, they're one of the best with like kind of indie horror, and this is a good release from them from the last couple of years. I believe this was a 2020 release. So maybe stream it before you buy it if you're hesitant, but if you like it, the Blu-ray is nice. My final Vinegar Syndrome title, going to the main line, one of their bigger titles this past month, was The Rage, Carrie 2. So this is kind of like a pseudo remake / continuation of Carrie, the Brian De Palma Sissy Spacek movie. It kind of has a similar situation in terms of like a not so popular girl getting in with the popular kids and stuff. But kind of the start of this movie involves like the girl's friend committing suicide and how that impacts her and why she committed suicide, and then what revenge is wanted to be taken. Within this story, you have like the events of Carrie have happened. You have Amy Irving from the original movie reprising her role from the original movie as a guidance counselor, and there's that connection. But a lot of it just feels like a little bit of a retread of the original Carrie, but done well. I enjoyed myself. I think it does enough things different that you get some nice variety and stuff. Good performances from the high school kids and stuff, or the 20-somethings playing high school kids. Yeah, it works well. It's a pretty solid remake or sequel to a movie you probably shouldn't have a sequel of, but if you're going to, I'm glad this one was made. It is from director Kat Shea, so you have a female director tackling this material, which is a nice touch with giving the thematic content. I've never seen this movie before, so I'm glad to watch it for the first time on 4K, which includes a new 4K restoration of the original camera negative in Dolby Vision. Looks fantastic. I was so pleased with how this looks, and it sounds great as well. You get 2 commentary tracks, deleted scenes, alternate ending. Really nice job from Vinegar Syndrome for their main label premiere release, The Rage, Carrie 2. Really unexpected but good release from them. Going over to our friends at Scream Factory and Shout Studios for a few titles, the first of which from Scream Factory is the 4K upgrade of Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions, in which Clive Barker writes an insane story that posits like if magic was real and like things, there was like secret societies and all kinds of stuff going on. And Scott Bakula's there. You have Famke Janssen. A lot of interesting people here. It's Clive Barker, so there's a lot of lore here that I'm trying not to spoil or like go too in the weeds in. But overall, it's an interesting story. I like it overall. I think Scott Bakula may have not been the strongest lead for this one, but overall, I think Barker does a nice job with what he's doing here. This is the unrated version of the film, and it has its moments where it's like a little bit like kind of loses its way a bit, but overall I think it's very interesting. And like there's some digital effects I don't quite hold up, but the practical effects are really great. So yeah, overall I enjoyed Lord of Illusions. My first time watching this, and this is from a 4K scan of the original camera negative. As I mentioned, it is the uncut director's cut in Dolby Vision with 5.1 and 2.0 audio. This is a really terrific release. It only includes a Blu-ray there, or 4K. No Blu-ray disc is included here, as I showed off. So I think due to right issues, they couldn't include a Blu-ray. But if you are 4K capable and you want an upgrade, by all accounts, from what I've heard, this seems to be a pretty significant upgrade from any previous version. Beautiful Dolby Vision, all the natural film grains intact, really bold colors. This looks fantastic, and the audio sounds good as well. You get a nice number of special features, including commentary track, interviews, featurettes, overall a couple of new ones, and a bunch of old, archival stuff. So if you're a Clive Barker fan and you want the best version of Lord of Illusions, this 4K version from Screen Factory will treat you well. No reversible cover art underneath. But moving on to Shout Studios for something a little bit different. The dramedy Primary Colors on 4K, starring John Travolta, Emma Thompson, a lot of people in this, Kathy Bates. And easiest way I can say it for this one is it's like basically a fictionalized version of the Bill Clinton story, but like using a different name and stuff. So it's like kind of a reimagining of his story, fictionalized. John Travolta playing a man, presidential candidate who's very impressive. He's gotten like this idealistic young campaign manager on his side after kind of sweet talking him, and like with his politics and stuff of like him being really for the people and everything. And he just really seems like to be the perfect candidate that everyone can rally around. The only issue really is that he's a horn dog and he's sleeping around all the time. And just how he can this movie reckons with like this person who's doing awful things like cheating on his wife and everything, and what a person who does good things does that cancel out things they do like that aren't good privately and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of it's a Mike Nichols film, and who I talked about earlier when in regards to A New Leaf. This movie isn't always the most nuanced. It's a little bit blunt in kind of its kind of approach, but overall I found it to be very engaging. And I did like the performances, and while I could sense where things were going, I think it handled it pretty well. And it doesn't try to like, there's a little bit of like over idealisticness at times, but it does keep its head out of the clouds enough to be kind of like knowing that things aren't like as perfect as things like we may want them to be and stuff. So there's a little bit of cynicism to that kind of gives it like a bit of an edge that makes it a little bit better movie. And overall I think it's very engaging. It's pretty long. I watched a lot of long movies these past couple weeks in preparation for this. It's 2 hours and 23 minutes. But if you like the movie, I've been trying to get a copy of this for a while, in terms of like my wife's been wanting to watch it for a long time. So when I saw I was getting to 4K, I knew I had to pick it up, and it looks fantastic. New 4K restoration of the original camera negative in Dolby Vision. fantastic release. Apparently previous Universal Blu-ray releases were a little bit DNR'd, and so for an unnatural quality, this is all natural and looking great. Bold colors, a lot of red, whites, and blues in here, and it looks great. And then also there's like go to Florida and Miami and stuff, so a lot of bold colors. So yeah, 4K release knocks it out of the park, and you get some special features, including a commentary track and some interviews. So primary colors, really nice 4K release from Shout Studios. Also from their Shout Select line, we have the epic Alexander Revisited, the final cut. So this is, I believe, the longest cut of the Oliver Stone epic about Alexander the Great. I just watched this movie a few months ago for the first time in a long time because my wife wanted to watch it. And I watched it on a crusty old HD DVD copy. So I was glad to finally have a proper copy now on 4K. Because, of course, like 2 weeks after I watched it, they announced this on 4K. But revisiting again so soon, I was able to more clearly note the differences in those transfers. And kind of get a little bit more of an appreciation for this movie, because it's a lot to take in. It's well over 3 hours long, and just getting it, like, this whole story it's not always the best handled. There's a lot of great action sequences. Some of the acting can be a little bit iffy, but I love Colin Farrell and he does a pretty nice job, and like some of the ensemble people are really great. But just trying to get a version of this movie from Oliver Stone that's perfection. I'm not sure if one exists, but it's kind of a beautiful mess at times and a lot of fun. And while I don't love all of it, there's enough here, and with a great cast, including, in addition to Colin Farrell, Angelina Jolie, Val Kilmer, Jared Leto, Rosario Dawson, Anthony Hopkins. A lot of stuff going on here, and then even more people beyond that. So in terms of like these older epic, like period epics from around this time, I'm more of a Troy man, but Alexander is a good time, and I'm glad I got the 4K upgrade. Not the most crisp 4K I've ever seen due to how this was finished for this final cut. So you're not going to get like a huge boost in like texture and everything, just how, like I said, how it's finished. But in terms of color and encoding and all that kind of stuff, all the nuances in it, like Black Crush and everything, all of it's kind of been improved. And I think this is the best way to watch the final cut of Alexander. I wish this was a multi-disc release full of like all the cuts in 4K, and just you could like, there's like at least 4 different cuts I can think of this movie. And it would be nice to get them all in 4K, but having the one version on 4K with the special features Blu-ray disc is a nice compromise from Shout, and at least you got the most robust version of the movie on 4K. In terms of special features, you do get a commentary track, interviews, documentaries, featurettes, and I forgot to mention you also get a new Atmos track on the audio side of things. So really immersive for these battle scenes. That works quite well. Very bombastic, big fight scenes. And yeah, 4K is a way to watch Alexander. It's not a perfect movie, but it's a pretty fun movie. Heading over to TV for a second with the Apple TV Plus original C, the complete series. This is from 5th season. Which is a company. They've been releasing a lot of their holdings that were streaming only previously, and I always applaud whenever a streaming TV show gets a physical media release. So this concludes all 3 seasons of the Jason Momoa series, all 24 episodes, 8 episodes a season, and in which a world where during the 21st century a virus emerged that caused everyone to go blind, and now many like a century later at least, the like everyone, like the remaining people who have lived throughout or survived this and kind of tried to continue along throughout the years, there's only a couple million people still in existence, and everyone is blind until the beginning of the series. You have a woman who gives birth to two children with sight, and there's like, it's a lot about kind of warring clans, and it's kind of like almost heresy to even like present the idea that having sight is an option. And there's a lot of things here. So if you want kind of like that's kind of like the pretense for like kind of this epic Game of Thrones-esque series in which there's a lot of factions infighting and a lot of lore being built. And yeah, there are things that stretch your credit, like the credulity in terms of like how these people who cannot see achieve things at such a adept rate in terms of like pulling off certain things. But of course, like, yes, other senses are enhanced, but just how they go about it, sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure if this could quite happen, but it's pretty impressive how they kind of try to explain things and set things up. And it's really action packed, a lot of drama, great performances. So while the original conceit made me a little bit hesitant, I wasn't sure if this would be for me particularly. Overall, I liked what I saw with this. There are some dips here and there along the journey in terms of quality, but overall, it's a pretty good ride. So if you're a Jason Momoa fan, or you like kind of big, kind of sci-fi, almost post-apocalyptic living, C is interesting. HD Blu-rays look nice. Comparable, like it's a nice jump from the HD streaming on Apple in terms of the compression. Yeah, of course you can get a 4K stream on Apple, but it pretty much evens out to how it's going to look on Blu-ray without those compression issues, and just like really no like banding or anything like that. 5.1 sound, everything looks nice, no special features, but overall this is a nice release for people who like physical media for their streaming releases. This is a win for them, and Fifth Season's done a really nice job with this Blu-ray. My next title got recommended to me, and once I got the recommendation, I was like, hell yeah, that sounds very interesting and right up my alley. It is the MVD Entertainment release of The Long Lonesome Highway. This is a documentary about the late, great Michael Parks. This is presented by Kevin Smith, who had him in his movies like Tusk and Red State in like the 2010s, near the end of Michael's life. But people may also know Michael Parks from like his role in like certain Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez movies, like From Dusk Till Dawn or the Kill Bill movies. But his career goes back decades and stuff. He was an actor, he was a musician, he was once on the Johnny Cash show. He's just a very fascinating guy who never really got the recognition he probably deserved. And this is really just our filmmaker, Josh Roush, who was his friend and worked with him near the end of his life, and really wanted to make sure that people knew about him and everything he accomplished, and didn't want his legacy to kind of be lost to the sands of time. Like, yes, we know we have his work still with us, but if you don't put in certain things into context and really draw attention to what like some like geniuses have done, they might not be known as geniuses. And I think this is what's really great about this documentary, which was obviously a labor of love over many years. But in addition to comments from like Kevin Smith, who is presenting this, you have people like Robert Rodriguez, Kurt Russell, Michael Parks' family members, like cultural critics, so many people that have been like gathered here to offer interesting insights. You got Mickey Rourke, who apparently didn't even work with Michael Parks. He's just an admirer and just decided to wax poetic about him on this documentary. There's a lot of stuff going into this. And then all throughout you have director Josh Roush, also as a participant, as he mentions in the commentary track, very hesitantly. He did not want to be a part of this movie, but he was kind of told that his story wasn't quite working without the emotional attachment of his story and connection to Michael. And I think it really does kind of pull things together overall in the edit. So while some documentarians inserting themselves into their movies can get a little bit obnoxious, I forgive it for this because it works quite well. Yeah, it's an entertaining documentary. If you want to know more about this legend, or should be iconic legend, the long lonesome highway, the story of Michael Parks, is very much worth checking out. My only complaint about this is it's not a Blu-ray release, but I know if it could be released on Blu-ray, it would be. But for now, we just have DVD. Hopefully, if this sells well enough, maybe in a few years we'll get a Blu-ray upgrade, and I would upgrade this. But for now, this DVD looks quite nice. It is DVD quality, but it is a newer film, filled with a mixture of newer interviews within the last decade and archival footage. So everything seems to be as good as footage as possible. But of course, when you're going back to like the 60s and 70s and stuff, some of the elements available aren't pristine, but everything looks quite good. And for a documentary, I can usually forgive those more for not having a Blu-ray release, even though I do prefer it. This DVD is quite good, and as I mentioned, there is a commentary track with Roush and Kevin Smith, which is very entertaining. A lot of great additional stories being shared that didn't make the final cut of the movie. I kind of wish that some of the additional interviews had been included, like deleted scenes and interviews and stuff. Probably wasn't just enough space on this disc for that. But the commentary track is fantastic. So in terms of value added for actually having it on physical media, the commentary track's definitely a nice touch. And Kevin Smith always offers one of my favorite commentary tracks, like whenever he's on one, and he has a really nice rapport with Roush, who he sometimes kind of roasts lightly at times, but it's always lovingly, and they have a really good rapport. So Long Lonesome Highway on DVD, worth checking out. Few more for us. My next film is from Magnolia Home Entertainment and their Magnet imprint. This is Borderline with Samara Weaving and Ray Nicholson, Jimmy Fails, Eric Dane. A lot of interesting people in this one. This is about Ray Nicholson, who is Jack Nicholson's son. He's been seen in a couple things recently, like Novocaine or Smile 2. He plays kind of a mentally unwell man who is stalking kind of a pop star, played by Samara Weaving, who he believes he is destined to be with. And it kind of leads to kind of a toxic encounter and ends up eventually kind of into a home invasion tale in which he's trying to convince his object of desire, person of desire, Samara Weaving, that they are meant to be together, and how that kind of plays out in very horrific and occasionally hilarious ends. It's not always the most subtle, but it is an entertaining take on this material. Samara Weaving is I won't curse, but she is fantastic. But she's really, really good in this. I always love seeing her. Ray Nicholson is very unsettling in his kind of losing his grip on reality. This is not a perfect film, but there are some issues with pacing, even at only around 90 minutes long. But overall, fun time. And if you like kind of a nice horror thriller, Borderline's worth checking out. Nice new HD transfer, looks great. Get a brief featurette, like a 7-minute making of featurette. But overall, nice release from Magnet if you want a pretty solid horror thriller. Sticking in that lane of horror, we got the 4K upgrade from RLJE Films of Late Night with the Devil. This follows their Blu-ray release from last year, which I reviewed for Geek Vibes Nation. This is a 4K upgrade, so I won't go too much into the story, but I will just say this continues RLJ's and Shudder's penchant for upgrading their Blu-rays with 4K releases in SDR. I know this has gotten kind of a deluxe release overseas from, I believe, Second Sight. I don't know if it was 4K or if theirs was like HDR or anything. I know they did for When Evil Lurks, but I apologize for not doing my due diligence and like researching that. But this is an SDR, which it looks good, but people may not notice a night and day difference from the Blu-ray release, especially since the aesthetic, the old school talk show aesthetic that this has. It's not supposed to look crystal clear, but you do get some nice textures here and there and everything, and overall it's a good release. It just might not be an essential upgrade if you already have the Blu-ray. It just depends on how much you love the movie, in my opinion. But I do like this steelbook. It's really nice. But Late Night with the Devil, if you're a big fan, maybe worth checking out, but might not be worth the upgrade quality-wise if you're only kind of more on the fence for this one. But finally, one release I was so excited to talk about. I haven't talked about Imprint films from Australia in quite a while, but when I do, they usually hit it out of the park, and we have an epic release of Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull on 4K. Now, yes, this was previously released on 4K domestically by the Criterion Collection, so some may think like, no, I'm good, and I understand that. The Criterion Collection are very near and dear to my heart. This little piece comes back here whenever you get the set. So I love the Criterion Collection, but sometimes they leave a little bit of room for improvement, and I think not having that 4K release, I can't directly compare. But what I will say about this particular release from Imprint is, while it may use the same base transfer or like master, what we get here is the Dolby Vision debut of this film. So you get the 2022 4K master approved by director Martin Scorsese, but this is the first time that it is being presented in Dolby Vision. And while I don't have complete clarification that this was encoded by Fidelity in Motion, they have encoded a lot of their 4K releases in the past, and this is a fantastic transfer for Raging Bull. So I probably should maybe buy the Criterion and compare and stuff, but as is, I think this is probably the ultimate presentation of Raging Bull. You got this gorgeous presentation of this classic movie. It's now in Dolby Vision. The encoding looks amazing, and you have a world of special features here, all ported over, and in this beautiful packaging with all these essays and a really hard book here, all within this nice, thick, incredible packaging. So you get 3 commentary tracks. You get a huge documentary about the making of the film. You get various featurettes. And yeah, it's a beautiful package, encoded well, Dolby Vision. One of the great films. Martin Scorsese's a god in my opinion, and Raging Bull, fantastic. And if you don't have it on 4K and you're willing to pony up a little bit of money and you want a quality set, this Imprint set is amazing. So I highly recommend it. Imprint, they usually do a nice job. It won't save you on shelf space, but quality-wise, fantastic release. So Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull on 4K from Imprint. You can get it in Dolby Vision, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. They have knocked it out of the park. This is a really, really fantastic release. And that is my show. I know it was a long one. I know I had a lot to cover, but I hope you found something that you found interesting. If you did, let me know in the comments. I always love hearing what you're interested in checking out. I love doing this for you every week. Make sure you should share this with anyone that also loves physical media. I have a blast with this. Make sure you like this, subscribe to the channel, Geek Vibes Nation channel. I have such fun doing this, and I will be back again next week with another fresh batch of movies. But Until next time, enjoy these movies.
I can see that you're having some problems. You might want to check your lens. You might want to try a little Claractics. That glass sure could use a cleaning. Would you like a free sample? Would you like a try?